Just within the last hour, we got word that the damage estimate from today's fire will probably approach $5 million. It was a fire that took 4 hours to bring under control and summoned 100 firefighters to the scene after it broke out in the second floor kitchen area of the Paul William Belts law firm office on Church near Franklin Street. At the height of the blaze, fueled by what we were told were massive amounts of paper files stored inside, thick smoke canvassed downtown Buffalo, forcing the evacuation of several nearby office and apartment buildings. It was a tricky fire to battle because the building is sandwiched between two others, leaving firefighters to make their primary attack through the roof. After it became apparent they needed to get away from the front of the building.
So when the first two engine company got in and they went up with the first two truck and the chief, they found the fire conditions on the second floor, and the conditions became untenable very quickly. And so, meaning pre-backdraft kind of, and so they backed out to go defensive, and that's when the fire was allowed to go from the second to the third to the roof.
The building had no sprinkler system or standpipes. We were told that's because it was constructed in the 1960s prior to those safety measures being required. Now, this building is sandwiched between two historic structures, the old Bell Telephone office tower and the world-famous Prudential Guarantee building with its well-known terracotta facade. During the fire, they had firefighters inside of both with hose lines, taking special steps to try and protect them should anything happen or should the fire spread. We are told that both escaped unscathed. On your side in downtown Buffalo, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
You ready to get sued?
Yeah.
In the tell-all interview now seen by over 500,000, Buffalo police officer Richard High blowing the whistle on a series of alleged cover-ups within Buffalo public schools.
The Buffalo school system has been intentionally not reporting the assaults of students.
The SVU officer taking to the Unsubscribed podcast to outline specific cases where he claims BPS officials and attorneys obstructed evidence and ignored subpoenas and court orders to cover up child abuse and sexual abuse within the district.
So a stranger went into the school. It's a grade school. It's a very low school.
High even going into detail on a few cases. One in which he described an attempted child abduction that he says went unreported to parents.
When his parents came to pick him up, the school did not disclose to the parent that the kid was a part of an attempted abduction. So when parents asked him, why did my kid his pants at school, the teachers and the people in charge did not tell them that there was an attempted abduction.
Buffalo Public Schools responding to these allegations in a statement, calling them false and saying they're prepared to vigorously address these untruths.
I bet you there is going to be a legal thing where they come after me.
In the interview, High acknowledging the potential repercussions that could come from the department for speaking out, something he's seen before.
Everybody's getting their car towed. Everybody is going to jail.
Happy Valentine's Day, neighbor!
Shut up!
Being suspended multiple times in his 13-year stint with the Buffalo Police Department.
I just took a bunch of coke from the evidence locker.
For violating the department's social media policy with online parody videos, and for an off-duty altercation in West Seneca in 2016. But the Buffalo Police Benevolent Association backing High in a statement tonight, calling him a passionate detective who prioritizes the well-being of the city's most vulnerable victims.
That is a shocking number of phone calls made to the police department.
That was the response from Buffalo Teachers Federation President Rich Nigro when I shared with him what I'm about to share with you at home. Since September 2021, the Buffalo Police have responded to calls at 56 Buffalo schools more than 17,700 times. That's more than 13 times per school day, according to our analysis. It's important to note that the following information is some of the dispatch codes used by police when they are called to the school. Ambulances have been called to the school 880 times. Police responded to more than 600 verbal threats. Other kinds of juvenile trouble, threats, or harassment accounted for more than 400 calls. There's been 357 calls for assaults or fights, and more than 200 missing persons calls. And police also responded to calls of sexual offense or rape a combined 126 times in that time period. It's also worth noting that these are just the initial response calls to Buffalo Police and not necessarily what was happening once they arrived on scene.
I know that they have processes in place to respond to things like this, but I would say that is cause for concern.
There is, however, a school other category that was entered more than 5,700 times. We're told by a Buffalo police spokesperson that refers to an incident where a student resource officer put themselves at a school for dismissal, but it's unclear if that was scheduled or a last-minute placement. The other category of calls refers to a direct patrol of a school by the department. I'm told that was done by previous Commissioner Joseph Germalia to ensure officers were present for so-called hotspots. School other calls, direct patrols, and an actual miscellaneous category represent 54% of the calls to schools since 2021, and there's no real clarity as to what they truly represent. We had hoped to talk to Buffalo Police Commissioner Alfonso Wright about this after he spoke with the Common Council about next year's budget, but he needed to look at the data closer. BTF President Rich Nigro says that his members are still processing the allegations made by Detective High, but safety and security within the schools has been a concern for quite some time.
You can't do your job if there's kids beating each other up in the schools. And you can't do your job if there's somebody throwing a desk. So yeah, I would say that is something that has to be addressed.
The Buffalo School District provided a lengthy statement about protocols, which we will post online, but they said in part that safety and security is their #1 priority.
And we know that the last thing our customers want is a rate hike on their electricity. What's really the driving factor in this is our push to modernize what's really an aging infrastructure.
National Grid is asking the Public Service Commission to approve a rate hike for its delivery fees that would amount to a 20% increase over the next 3 years. A typical residential customer using 625 kilowatt hours of electricity would see their bill go up $14.32 a month the first year, more than $6 a month the second year, and more than $4 a month the third year.
Is it ideal to see a rate increase? No, but these are things that need to be done, and by stretching them over 3 years, we're trying to minimize the impact as much as possible.
Lori Wheelock with the Public Utility Law Project has been working with National Grid and other stakeholders on this rate case for the past year.
When the company filed about a year ago, the electric bill impacts were close to $19 expected a month as far as for upstate customers.
And while those numbers have come down, Wheelock says in March, more than 200,000 National Grid customers in upstate New York were behind on their bills by 60 days or more, accounting for about $300 million.
Most likely when we file our last brief in the case, the public will see that we're pushing for any sort of increased, cuts to the delivery proposal as it sits, as well as any other enhancements the company is willing to do to really get out there and help their customers.
Katie Wetzer never imagined she'd get the kind of call every parent fears.
Her best friend called me and let me know that she was struck by a vehicle. I asked them where at, what's the address. I got into my car. I was there within 2 minutes.
She didn't want to speak on camera, but told me that her 10-year-old daughter, Eliana Williams, was riding an e-bike home from a friend's house Monday evening when she was hit by a car at this intersection of Main and Fletcher.
She does have a skull fracture from the left side of her skull into the back of her skull, and she has 3 brain bleeds, which are very small.
The crash tore the family's world apart.
As a parent, nobody wants to go through this. Nobody.
The crash is under investigation. Tonawanda police say the driver of the SUV is a 69-year-old man. No charges have been filed, but neighbors and advocates say the intersection is dangerous.
A lot of people speed through that area. They don't stop. They try to beat the yellow lights, because she's not the only one that's been hit there before.
Go Bike Buffalo says it's not just this corner, it's a systematic problem.
I mean, if they had followed up what was on the study, this child would not have been hurt as critically as she has been.
Executive Director Justin Booth says the city of Tonawanda partnered with Go Bike on a safety action plan years ago. It called for adding crosswalks, bike lanes, pedestrian islands, and curb extensions.
Children to not be children. We can't expect them to follow all the rules of the road.
Go Bike Buffalo created this crash dashboard, analyzing local data from 2018 to 2024.
We know that in Western New York, cyclists and pedestrians only represent about 3% of all the crashes that occur, but they represent over 45% of all the injuries and fatalities on our roadway.
Over at Oshai's hospital, as Eliana slowly recovers, her parents are left juggling bills and waiting for answers.
Me and her father are out of work.
They're hoping the city takes a hard look before another family gets that same phone call.
Whether they come to get help or they come to help, will be blessed and their lives will change.
That spirit of caring is what Amy Betros is being remembered for most, after dedicating nearly half her life to serving those in need at St. Luke's Mission of Mercy, where this morning tears were shed as the news of her passing spread.
I know she don't want us to be sad, but right now it's really hard not to be sad because we lost a big part of St. Luke's Mission of Mercy, and we lost an angel.
An angel on earth who cared for the poor, hungry, unhoused, and those battling addiction, called to fulfill that title by a higher power.
She was a selfless giver.
It hurts, but as Miss Amy would say, she wanted us all to work together, keep the legacy alive, but always putting the Lord first, and always working together as one family.
It's just like taking care of a big, huge family.
The family founded in 1994 by Betros and her friend Norm Palini. She sold her restaurant, Amy's Place, to take this leap of faith. The two now reunited 7 years to the day of Norm's passing, April 30th, the same day the inspiration for St. Luke's Mission of Mercy, St. Faustina, became a saint.
Amy is up there with the Lord, and she watching down on us, and she don't want us to give up, and we ain't giving up.
It's sad, but we got to rejoice at the same time. That's, you know what I mean? That's how she always wanted us to be, so that's what we do.
Amy's work isn't done either, with St. Luke's Build Promise shelter yet to be complete, and people like Ice, Charlene, and so many others ready to carry on her legacy.
It's like it's an ongoing cycle of her giving whatever she received out to the public and the community.
She loved it, everybody. She had a heart what God called her to do.
Brody Kaufman was on vacation with his family in the Florida Keys when suddenly,
it was something we never expected.
A text from his mom changed everything.
3 kayakers in distress. I immediately called 911 and then texted Brody.
I see dude clinging onto his kayak, and about 2 seconds later that fell out of his hand. It drifted down. His buddies couldn't get back to him with the current, so then he started floating. That's when I really kind of just clicked in my head, I got to do something.
The junior member of the Harris Hill Volunteer Fire Department quickly put his training to the test.
Everything that I've seen, been through, and been taught, I kind of just put that all into my head and got me in the correct mindset to help this man.
Brody knew he had to act fast.
If I don't step in, he's going to get thrown out to sea with a life jacket that's too big. He would have been swept under with the current, and he wouldn't have had a chance.
Surrounded by strangers and with his dad by his side, Brody became the one they all followed.
Brody really said, hey, this is what we need to do, and he led the other fishermen, asked them to get ropes, so they went and got ropes, and then he really just took charge from there.
I said, guys, we got to pull him up. He's not going to make it if he stays in the water if we keep dragging him.
Through their quick action, they saved the man's life.
He's always been a helper. He's always been the person that's going to go up to a stranger and introduce himself. So I knew that he wasn't going to be a wallflower in life. I had no idea he would do something this big, but I'm happy that he was there at the right time, the right place.
I was doing my job. That's what I was trained to do. That's what I feel like my purpose here is.
Answering the call for help.
It's what he loves, and it was obvious the way he took control of the situation that this is what he's destined to do.
It's what drives him every day.
Great sense of pride that you feel. I mean, I saved another man, but I got to give credit to everybody else that was helping me. I mean, they're also the reason that this man is still alive.
On your side, Courtney Courtwright, Channel 2 News.
For 140 years, the Maid of the Mist has taken tourists face to face with the falls and setting sail once again.
When you hear that sound within the mist of Niagara Falls, it can only mean one thing.
May 1st is opening day. It's the start of the 140th season of Maid of the Mist.
After a long, icy winter delayed its start, one of North America's oldest continuous tours is back in action, taking visitors around the 600,000 gallons of water that plunge over the falls every second.
This year, the ice pack did not release from Lake Erie until Good Friday, so we had to wait for all that ice to run down the Niagara River, go over Niagara Falls, and clear the lower gorge before we could put the boats in the water.
Maid of the Mist spokesperson Kevin Keenan says their newly introduced electric-powered boats are the only ones of their kind in North America.
They are zero emission, and they are charged after every tour. And what's interesting is the source of the power is Niagara Falls.
The e-powered boats may be a feature, but the true magnet for the estimated 1.6 million annual visitors remains the natural wonder of the falls.
So you hear everything in the lower gorge here in Niagara Falls. You hear obviously the roar of the falls, which you can hear behind us right now, but you also hear the birds.
Although sailing season starts tomorrow, it'll go until November. On your side in Niagara Falls, Alyssa Clausel, Channel 2 News.
From this helicopter gunship perched as a war memorial in Tonawanda to a Navy patrol boat as a Vietnam veteran in its own way on display at the Naval Park, to again these names in these particular memorial walls. Help us to never forget what was going on in the jungles of Southeast Asia and how that became reality for very young men and women back then, among the 2.7 million facing war, even those on Navy ships off the coast like the 3 men we met today.
We were in high school. We feared nothing. We were young and foolish, you know? Nothing could hurt us. But then in reality, when I finally got in, I saw the reality of war. And it wasn't easy to take. I wondered about it sometimes, whether or not I was going to survive.
Gullo has other memories from back then, including a friend he lost.
Do you remember that Marine?
Yes, Kenny Lecastri. He's on the wall down there.
What can you tell us about him?
Well, again, childhood friend. He quit high school and went in the Marine Corps. Next thing we know, within a year, he's gone. Sad. You know, that's some of the reality our generation had to face. I also honor my older brother, 2 tours of Nam, Green Beret. Survived. So I got some history there.
Then sadly, they remember the very negative mood of some in this nation. It was also an ordeal to come home from the war zone.
When you got in the airport, you could see people would yell at you, and that, especially the guys that were wounded in wheelchairs and stuff, and they were getting a lot of negative attention and things like that, so you just shut up.
Fortunately, they have the pride back, but some still suffering with illnesses like cancer from exposure to a defoliant used by the military to clear the thick jungles back then.
A lot of them are still dying from Vietnam because of Agent Orange, and they brought that home with them. That's the difficulty that's going on today.
There is a new statue at Forest Lawn Cemetery of a political powerhouse who broke barriers in the 60s and 70s. Shirley Chisholm was the first black woman elected to Congress. She was known for supporting civil rights and women's rights. She's buried in Buffalo, and now artist Julia Bottoms has designed a statue that reflects the woman who was recently the subject of a movie.
Shirley made her own way. She brought a chair. People told her no. She didn't listen. And I see a lot of parallels. Although I'm not in politics, I'm a woman in the arts. I'm a black woman in the arts. And it does not often welcome women who look like me. So I think to see her do something like that, where she shattered a glass ceiling, paved a way for me to be able to do that even in the arts.
Shirley Chisholm ran for president in 1972. Her slogan was "Unbought and Unbossed."
The Queen City is known for its architecture, and that includes some of our earliest school buildings.
The buildings were made to inspire, so you wanted to, give a reason to be here.
Buffalo Public School senior architects Kaylee Aladad and Jim Napora took me on a tour of some of their favorites. First up, Hutch Tech. This building opened in 1914 to house Central High School, which had outgrown its previous locations. The land was donated by Edward Hutchinson, later adding Buffalo Tech to make what we now know as Hutchinson Central Technical High School.
Dr. Edward Hutchinson, he was known for wanting to invoke STEM programs before STEM was even a thing.
The expansion was needed to meet the growing population as well as emerging industries. And the same holds true on our next stop at Burgard. Opened in 1930, this school also addressed the needs of industry. In the 20s and 30s, aviation was a major business in Buffalo, Niagara, as was the auto industry. And Burgard put out technicians who went from the high school into the workforce. The building still has ramps from the first floor to the third, so you can drive cars right up to the top, and large spaces to work on airplanes and airplane engines.
The aviation program came out of the old Elm Street Vocational Building, where in 1928 the students there pooled their money and their resources and bought an airplane.
But the school with the most surprising little-known past maybe here at iPrep at Grover.
This is the original Buff State, or at least this property was the original Buff State.
Yes.
That's right. Known then as the New York State Normal School, the original building opened in 1871.
It's interesting that the history of the normal school is so completely tied to the history of Buffalo.
Wendy Patterson is the dean of the School of Education at Buffalo State University.
And so the connection between the preparation of teachers and the growth of the city is very, very close.
And that was the mission of the Normal School, to train teachers for the growing city. And as Buffalo grew, so did the Normal School, putting up a new building in 1914 on the same plot of land. That new building would eventually become Grover Cleveland less than 20 years later, when the city swapped a parcel of land on Elmwood Avenue for the West Side site and building.
In 1931, they moved here.
And it all started with 5 buildings on the new campus, including what's now Rockwell Hall, named for the college president at the time of the move. In fact, this lawn between Bacon and Ketchum Hall was the original quad, and there's still evidence of the old school. What was 13th Street is now Normal Ave.
You know, that was, really was the story of Buffalo.
So we have a bet every year how many how many tacos we think we're gonna sell. The winner last year was 2,400.
Zena Lappy is the owner and chef at Casa Azul in Allentown, where they are getting ready for their busiest weekend of the year, Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, this is my favorite time of the year. We're excited to get the patio open, and this year, because it falls on a Monday, we're going to have an all-day party Sunday and Monday, so you get 2 chances to come celebrate with us.
This is Casa Azul's 9th year in business and 5th at this location at the corner of Elmwood and Allen.
When it first started, I think I had 4 employees. Now we have 40 in the summer, so it's been amazing, and the community has really, gotten behind us and watched us grow and helped us grow.
They are most known for their tacos, which come in orders of 3.
We do fresh hand-pressed masa tortillas, corn-based, so they're naturally gluten-free, made to order, and then you get to choose, it's a trio, you get to choose 3. We have a bunch of awesome vegan and vegetarian options. The Brussels sprout and cauliflower shishito pepper one are really popular.
Zena calls the rest of her menu creative Mexican.
It's all like creative twists on classics. We have tacos and tortas and tostadas, huaraches, but it's all very different than what you would get anywhere in Buffalo, but also anywhere in Mexico. It's really like my creative spin on things.
If you can't make it out for Cinco de Mayo, Casa Azul is open at 4 o'clock for dinner every day but Sunday, and this will be their first full season outside with their newly expanded patio.
We also have a fully operational second bar out there, which is pretty, I think, new to the city of Buffalo. I want to say we're one of 2 that has an actual outdoor bar. And then we just put up a structure with Labella construction to keep you guys covered just in case it rains. Yeah, it like quadruples our seating out there, so it's a lot of fun.